We got this from the Post Millennial. Trump ends every single media contract at the GSA. Trump told the General Services Administration to terminate every single media contract. I just want to say right away, the media is going to claim that's conspiracy theory. The government's not funding these things. Funding is the manipulative language that they use. What's happening is large amounts of money to the tunes of tens of millions of dollars are being used to purchase these ridiculously expensive subscription packages and tools these media companies offer, effectively propping up whether these companies, like, look, Politico's like, we've got an analysis tool they're buying. Great. And then the $3,000 a year per person that's going to your company, you then write anti-Trump news. And what's going to happen is these companies, they know who butters their bread, the Biden administration. So, of course, they're not going to defy them. They don't want to lose $1 million contract. Nobody does. And that's effectively the kickback.
Yeah.
Trump is saying, shut it all down. He recently came out and said billions of dollars had been stolen by USAID and other agencies, sending it to the fake news media, mentioning Politico got $8 million. Now, I want to stress this because last night people were saying, a Nuance Bro brought up, but how much of their revenue, what percentage of their revenue is that? Because if Politico is doing $200 million a year, do we care about $1 million? Super Chatter made a great point. If you had a company that makes $50 million a year, to a leftist, they're going to be like, wow, you're rich. And then you look at his balance sheet and his profit was 50 grand. Yeah, $50 million a year, but you're spending that on staffing and resupplying and things like this. Then along comes a government contract and they say, you normally sell a product for $10, right? We'll give you $10,000 per product, $1 million a year. And guess what? Now you have $1 million profit and that guy's putting it in his pocket. So they want to play these games. Yep. Trump's shutting it all down. I don't know that this ultimately disrupts the media apparatus beyond what we're already seeing, but I want to stress this. I believe there's a strong probability that as Elon Musk continues his purge, his deep dive into these institutions, we are actually going to find many of these media companies are receiving funding from the U.S. government in some way.
Yeah. Well, that's why they've named them trusted news sources. If you Google now, it takes 5 pages to see somebody that's not a trusted news source. There's a reason for that.
YouTube's the same.
Right. So there's a reason for that. And the truth is, I don't think that this whole movement that they've been promoting will continue. I really think it's going to fall apart without these media outlets that constantly put out information that isn't true. I saw Brian Stelter earlier today, unfortunately, on CNN, laughing about it. Now he's saying it's unreality. They've jumped from misinformation to unreality. And he's saying it's unreality that Politico got funding. Well, Reuters also got funding and AP also got funding and all the trusted sources, New York Times, Washington Post, all got funding. They shouldn't need funding if they have a good product. You didn't get money from the government.
Well, let's clarify. It is technical funding. Politico says for $13,000 a year, you can get access to our premium package. And the government goes, guess I'll buy that. Now, and I'm saying this, if I launched the Timcast Trump plan and it's $10,000 or it's $15,000 a year, and then all of Trump's staff signed up for it, Democrats would call that money laundering.
Yep.
Yes, absolutely. And that is what it is.
It's a transaction. What do you mean? He's just buying a service from me.
Well, this is like they name their NGOs.
You know what? You know what really grinds my gears? I deal with this all the time in business. My accountant says, if you overpay or underpay, the IRS will have questions. If you buy a building, right? Let's say you own a house and it costs you $200,000. And then you sell the house for $100,000. IRS is going to have questions. Who did you sell it to? Some guy I met. Why did you sell the house at half of what you paid for it only recently? They are not going to let you just do that because that means taxes aren't going to them, plus the property tax in the local area. How about this? You buy a house for $200,000 and then flip it for $1 million. No, let's actually play this game. What do you think would happen? Okay, a news subscription costs $20 a month, and I'm being generous and saying 20. And the government's spending $2,750 per year per person. So let's just call it 10 times. So you buy a $200,000 house, and then a few months later you sell it to someone for $2 million. There's going to be questions about who that person is buying that house. And they're going to say, is this like a foreign dignitary buying a house from a politician or something? Or why is this money transfer happening? We have already dealt with this where we've been instructed by our accountants that if exorbitant fees are paid to staff, then you run the risk of being audited, because they're going to say, if the average salary for a job is X, why are you paying X times 2? You got to justify it. We should have every single one of these government staffing, these agencies and departments, justify why they're spending 100 times the average rate for a news subscription.
Yep. And I mean, I would love to see these kind of things happen. I don't know that they're actually going to, so I think that we should just cut off all the spending right off the bat. I don't imagine that you're going to be able to pin Politico or Bloomberg as having actually done anything wrong. Not that this is above board, but I just don't think that the government's going to be. I don't think it's worth the time to try and pin it on them. Just cut the money off and make sure that they don't do it again or don't continue to fund them. I think that's probably the best. I mean, I would, again, if someone has a plan to do it and can make it stick, I'm all for it. I'm not saying that I don't want these things to happen, but I think the most likely outcome is cut the money off and
I agree.
Walk away.
Give them 90 days and have them file something justifying it, like you're saying.
90 days?
That's what they want.
Give them 0. What? Trump's giving them 90 days?
He's giving some people 90 days to decide if they're going to keep certain positions.
No, I'm talking about these payments to media companies.
Yeah, they're stopped, not just for 90 days. But what is he going to do now? Just it's over?
This is, in this story is, there's, for instance, the Department of Defense paid, I think it was the DOD, $900,000 to Politico for subscriptions. Yeah, we turn that off. We literally just say, no more subscriptions.
So most of these, does a place like Politico ask you to also donate, like a place like The Guardian, which asks you to donate?
Politico put out a statement saying, look, these were transactions. This is normal business. And I say, shove it up your... No one is buying $1,000 a month Timcast subscriptions. That's insane.
I don't care. It doesn't matter to me if they say that it's normal or not. The government shouldn't spend the money on it. Yeah. It's out. It's not a responsible use of money.
Right.
So,
what about Wikipedia? Is that involved in this too?
Nah, not that I'm aware of, but I bet if you go to usaspending.gov, you might find Wikipedia's getting a bunch of money.
For sure.
But this is the game. That's why I called it plausible deniability. Yeah. They can feign ignorance. Yep. All these media outlets, because apparently, like the BBC was getting Media Action, their charity arm, was getting USAID funds. But you apparently have government employees buying subscriptions, exorbitant fees to AP, Reuters, New York Times, or whatever, hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars. And then they go, we're not funding anybody. I want you to justify why you're going to spend $3,000 on this package 172 times. Why Politico is going to get $1 million a year in contracts. I believe it's been reported the total number they've received in subscriptions is $34.3 million. It's over a decade or so, but still.
It doesn't matter. It's a waste of money. And again, the people are going to say, well, in the grand scheme of things, the budget's $2 trillion a year, so this doesn't matter, and et cetera, et cetera. I don't care. I don't care because the point of this isn't as much about the money as it is about the influence and having the narrative be set by these news agencies and being basically a mouthpiece for the left.
I think we have to keep scratching down on the surface here too, because don't forget that during COVID, it came out that Bill Gates was giving a lot of money to a lot of different journals and news sources. Also, Open Society and George Soros does. And I mean, maybe there's multiple levels of money laundering going through these trusted sources. Because it can't just be, I mean, we know about Bill Gates and the $300 million. And
it all connects together anyways, because remember however many years ago when it was that YouTube said we are going to de-rank people that are not considered a trusted news source, and we're only going to push through articles and we're going to push through videos and lives that come from what they call trusted, news sources, whether that's Fox, CNN, MSNBC, all of which are working together.
I have a question. Is there any concern for a conflict of interest when these news organizations rely on government employees as a substantial portion of their revenue?
Yeah, I would think so.
So I have a question. Nuance Pro asked the other day, what % of their total yearly revenue comes from government subscriptions? I have a better question. What % of their Premium Pro subscriptions come from government entities? Because if you want to make an argument that they make a lot of their money off sponsorships, we're comparing apples to oranges. No. I want a list of all of their Premium Pro subscriptions, and I want to know what % are government employees, and then I want to know their political affiliation.
Yeah, exactly.
Might as well just call it the government package.
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah.
I'm not.
That's literally it's designed specifically.
Let me pull it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, Politico. We Politico Pro subscription, and on their Politico Pro website, I think. Let me just load up the website. I'm pretty sure they have a government tier somewhere. I got to find it. We had it the other day, but because they make you learn more. Let me pull it up and see what we got here, and take a look at this Pro Plus feature highlights.
Look, man, Politico wants access to people in the government. They should just give this to people in the government for free.
I think what's more disturbing is that we're funding news agencies, news all over the world, in Ukraine, in Israel, in China. I mean, we're funding news all over the place. So it's propaganda, obviously. But I mean, when I found out that whole list of people that they want to kill from Ukraine, of journalists that Tucker's on and Tulsi's on, we're funding that. You know, we're funding that that OCCR that did the Panama Papers. We're funding that. That's also the impetus to Trump's impeachment with Ukraine was also out of that journal about corruption and international corruption. We funded that. How much international news is the U.S. government funding right now is also the question.
I mean, look, the fact of the matter is this kind of stuff is propaganda. The point is to put forward a narrative. These media these media and journalist institutes or whatever outlets, they're not actually honest brokers. They're not showing honest both sides coverage. They're not real journalists. They're propagandists. The point is to push a narrative, and as long as the point is to push a narrative, they shouldn't get one dime from the government, not a cent.
It's really crazy to see like all of the tactics that we used overseas for years, whether it's through the CIA and all that, to see it come back home.
Yeah.
Whether talking post 2012 when the propaganda arm was turned back on America and seeing how fast it's devolved.
Well, Trump should do that. He should overturn the Smith Modernization Act immediately.
That was in 2013, I believe.
Obama.
And it made it okay for the State Department to disseminate essentially propaganda inside the United States.
The logic at the time was supposed to be about preventing domestic terrorists from being radicalized, right?
Yeah, that was the logic.
That was the logic.
But yes, that was the logic. But the fact of the matter is, it's being used to propagandize the American people. That's why our politics are so polarized nowadays.
Right.
There are the people that are inclined to believe what the government says, and then people that are not inclined to believe what the government says. And the government is saying that one half of the country is evil. The government is saying these people are likely Nazis. Our democracy is in jeopardy. They're saying that currently now. They're saying that our democracy is in jeopardy because we're trying to cut the bureaucracy.
Yeah.
Cutting spending in the government is absolutely...
The craziest thing is that what is happening with Elon and Doge is effectively an audit.
Yes.
And Democrat voters and Democrat activists are angry about it.
Unreal.
Right. Look, that's all you got to say to a family member. You'd be like, so they're auditing USAID? They're doing an audit of where our money's going? And if they get mad and say we shouldn't audit things, be like, okay, you are insane, bye.
Well, they're going to say that Doge is not an official government organization. You say, do you know what the USDS is? Do you know how these things started? And again, you have to start showing them like really, really boring papers. Like, do not fall for the sensational headlines. Like, if you don't have the brain power to sit through and look at all of this stuff, then you're falling for the propaganda that we're talking about here.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.